Welcome to the Meredith Patterson Podcast. Here is your host, Meredith Patterson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Meredith Patterson Podcast. I'm your host, Meredith, and today begins part one of a very special two-part conversation with a man who I can't believe I got a chance to talk to, and I'm just so excited to welcome to my podcast a man whose music defined not just a decade, but an entire era of American culture and, quite frankly, my childhood. My guest today is the one and only Huey Lewis. Yes, you guys, Huey Lewis is here. His band, Huey Lewis and the News, has sold more than 30 million records worldwide. That's amazing. And I could go on and on with his credits. But their music wasn't just popular, it was a part of the cultural fabric of the 80s. From radios to MTV to the big screen to Back to the Future, Huey Lewis is not just a musician, he is a rock and roll icon. And yet what's really remarkable about my conversation with him that you're going to get to listen in on today is that Huey, behind all the success, has remained incredibly humble, grounded, generous, and I'm so incredibly lucky that that's the Huey that I get to share with you guys today. So without further ado, here is my incredible guest, Huey Lewis. Okay, welcome, Huey. I am just so incredibly excited to have you here on the podcast. It's a dream come true for me, and I just, it's okay if you don't remember meeting me. We met in New York. It was 2008. You and I were both starring on Broadway at the same time, and we both had the same director, Walter Bobby, who directed Chicago, which you were in, and then me and White Christmas. I was over at the Marquee, and you were over at the Richard Rodgers, I think.
No, the Ambassador.
The Ambassador, thank you. You know better than me. And you didn't come to our show, but you came to a rehearsal, a run through that you were invited to. And we were kind of told as a cast in like passing, oh, by the way, Huey Lewis is going to be, just sitting in on the run through. And all of us who were, 80s kids just looked at each other and every song we've ever heard came up in our heads. And we were like, wait, what? And of course, you're 6'4", so it's undeniable that you're there. So we saw you standing there. I'm tap dancing like crazy in front of you. And I'm trying to remember my lines because all I'm thinking of is all your songs. And what really stuck in my mind was that you came up to all of us after and really you spent the time to say hi. You were so gracious and you were just such a huge, just positive impact. Like to meet a celebrity, meet one of your idols as a kid and have them be everything and if not more when you meet them is just incredible. So thank you for that.
Very sweet. Thank you. Yeah. I remember that. And, interestingly, run-throughs in dance studios can be even more exciting than actual real performances because all you get is pure music and dancing, and you guys are in sweats or whatnot, and you sit right there. You're in the middle of the company. Oh man, that's rehearsals are more fun than the actual performances.
It's true, yeah, because you don't have all the distractions of I don't know, sets and costumes and things like that. But it was a palpable memory for me. So thank you. And, you and I, we have a lot in common as I'm learning more about you as a person, because you and I are both Northern Californian. I'm from Pleasant Hill, which is East Bay.
Sure.
I was born in Concord. And we both also have jazz drummer fathers. So going back to tap dancing in front of you, that's, my dad drilled my time when I was a kid and I started tapping when I was about 3. And I noticed your dad was a jazz drummer. So, I also, in hearing your singing, you're very rhythmic. You probably know this, or maybe you've been told this before, but you have like a rhythm when you sing. And I've been told that I'm the same way. Do you think you got that from your dad, or is that something that you maybe never knew about yourself?
Well, that's jazz, right? Or rhythm and blues. It was with Sinatra, like they said, always had great phrasing. But
Yeah.
Sinatra grew up with Tommy Dorsey, and Tommy
Mm-hmm.
Dorsey was the first cat, the bone player, who what they used to say played black, which meant he played rhythm. He didn't sing on the beat; he'd sing after the beat, and he taught Sinatra all that great phrasing. And that's about. It's just rhythm, isn't it? I mean, it's
It
called
is.
it's called phrasing, but it's if it swings, it's rhythm. Like
And you're
I
so
like
good
it.
at it.
How about you? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's something that you can be taught. I don't know if it's genetic. Do you think rhythm is
Uh,
genetic?
I do kind of. They say that you can teach pitch and that, but you can't teach rhythm. Yet time. You
Yeah.
have great time or you don't have great time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But
Did your
I'm
dad
I'm not
did
sure that's true. But that's what they say.
That's what they say. And I wonder, did your dad ever play his kit in the house? Did you see him play?
My dad had a kit set up all the time in the living room, and he used to put me on the drums and make me swing scrambled eggs, with brushes, and
Oh man,
one
we have
brush
another thing in
circulates on the
common.
snare, and
I
and
used
and
to so
and
I
he
used to
and
take
he
my dad's brushes and bend them when I
yeah
was a little girl. I used to bend them and he did the same thing. We had the kit set up in the living room all the time.
yeah yeah. We had and my dad was, although he was a doctor by profession, he his one of his best friends, our family friends, was Ralph Sutton, who was a great stride piano player and had a band called the World's Greatest Jazz Band. And Ralph knew Ben Webster and Jimmy Rushing and all these great old jazz cats. And with it, they would hang out. We had guys, and they'd come to my house and stuff. So it was really pretty cool, to just meeting those guys.
Did he play gigs
Yeah,
on the side? Yeah.
he played with Ralph for a while at the Olympics, 1960 Olympics in Squaw Valley. He had a 2 month gig. They played every night for it. What was now Bar One. It was then called the Squaw Valley Lodge, and he had a gig there. We lived there for 2 months and skied every day. It was fantastic. But my dad did a few gigs like that, and then he would do rehearsals, jam sessions at a place called the Marin Outdoor Art Club in Mill Valley. It's right on the corner of Mill Valley, and you could rent it for a couple $100. And he would rent it, and my mom would make spaghetti, and he'd invite a bunch of musicians, and they'd have like a Dixieland jazz band, and we would. This is when I'm like 5 or 6. So that's my first memory of live music.
It's so amazing because that's another thing. My first memory of live music is seeing my dad play gigs because he played. I never saw him at Top of the Mark, but he played at the Top of the Mark Hopkins in San Francisco, and he also had, his side job was he was an engineer for
Uh-huh.
IBM. So but it's interesting and going to like, going all in as a musician or maybe having a side hustle. Both of our dads, they still played the gigs because they loved the music and my house was filled with jazz. I know you had Stan Getz on one of your albums and one of your songs, and I heard that and I thought, my God, I know exactly who that is. And it's a world that when you're raised with jazz in your house, jazz, I think, is the foundation of so many things, right? And
Yeah.
so it influences so much.
It's American classical music, right?
Yeah.
But my as a funny story, the Getz thing. My dad, was a jazzer and so on. And he eh, he used to call my band my shtick the funny hat routine because like in the old days of big bands, one song they would do a funny. They'd take their hats and use them as mutes
Yeah.
and it would be a kind of a choreographed thing. And he saw rock and roll as that whole thing, novelty, really, basically. He saw it as just a novelty thing. So he didn't know from my stuff at all in the beginning. And finally, I remember when Zoot Sims died, they had a benefit at Kimball's in San Francisco, and I had just sort of happened, so I got tickets because I knew because my old man said, "Oh man, Zoot died, and they're having this benefit, and they got Getz, and they got Jimmy Jones, and they got other," and so I got tickets, secretly, and then I surprised him with tickets to this benefit, and we go and we into the place, and we sit, and they go, "Oh my God, Huey Lewis, Huey this," and my dad is just amazed that anybody even knows who I am. And then they escort us right down in front, and we sit right in the first two seats. I mean, like row three, middle, right in the middle, best seats in the house, and sitting right next to us is Phil Elwood, the music critic. And my dad's been reading Phil Elwood for years, and my dad knows all about jazz. My dad knows the names of all the sax players and all of Ellington's band, of all Basie's band. He knows all that stuff, and so does Elwood. So we sit down right next to Phil Elwood, and Phil Elwood goes, "Oh my gosh, Huey Lewis, Phil Elwood, great to meet you." My dad can't believe he knows what. So I said, "This is my dad. Here, you guys sit together," and they sit them down like that, and they just start talking about jazz and Jimmy Lunsford and all the Chick Webb's orchestra and who was all kinds of stuff like that, and they're having and my dad is so impressed that Phil Elwood even knows who I am, right? And now we're sitting there, and I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Getz, and he's got his on, and he goes, "Hey, you're Huey Lewis, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "My girlfriend wants to eat your shorts." he says, "Look, hey, why don't you let me play on some of your shit? I can play that shit too, And I said, "Oh, absolutely, sir. What But he gave me a card, and it said, "Stan Getz, have sax, will travel." And so on the ride home, my dad said to me, he said, "He's not well, Stan. He's got cancer." And my dad was a radiologist, so he knew all about it. He said, "And if you don't take him up on that offer, I'll never talk to you again." So then I spent the next, Chris and I finally figured that Small World out really is a vehicle for Getz, and it was an amazing relationship. I just had so much fun. He came up and played. He just played unbelievable. He was an unbelievable musician and a funny, wonderful, wonderful guy.
What an incredible, to have that full circle moment with your dad and it's so funny because my dad probably would have been the same if I don't know, Oscar Peterson said, "I want to play on your," if I was famous and that sort of thing happened. It's like, that was your stamp of approval, if you will. But wow, man. Here's the thing. I know growing up with jazz in my house, my mom also played a lot of different music. What was the music vibe in your house? Was it all jazz? Was it eclectic? Was it a mix of a bunch of different things?
It was all jazz, but there were no singers. My old man liked the big band stuff, Dixieland or big band, but he just thought the vocalists kind of got in the way.
Oh, okay.
I had to find my own path, and I gravitated to rhythm and blues, and where the singer was king. Kind of Ray Charles-y and Johnny Taylor and all the great baritones and church, gospel and all the great voices.
Yeah.
And so those are my influences.
Yeah, and your voice is such a distinct, even just your speaking voice is such a distinct sound. And it's such a sound of like so many, I'm now speaking for all the kids in the 80s. When they hear your voice, you have, within seconds, we know exactly who you are because your singing voice has this just incredible tone. And this is where, as a singer, did you always have this voice? Did you take lessons as a kid? Did you just sing in the house? How did you start singing and find out that you could sing?
Well, I sang I graduated a year young from high school. I was 16 and I was playing harmonica, and my old man suggested a year off, bum around Europe. So I bummed around Europe, and I sang and played, in anywhere and everywhere. He was, sometimes just busking in the streets, sometimes with other bands and all stuff. And that's when I really, did all my woodshedding. I mean, I would play on the side of the road play and sing for hours. In Franco's Spain, when we were hitchhiking, I had long hair, and nobody would pick you up. They were afraid. So you'd hitchhike by the side of the road for hours, and the only people who would pick you up were Germans, big German tourists going to Spain, and they'd see a blonde-haired kid on the side, and they'd think, "Oh, maybe he's German," and they'd
Yeah.
stop. And that's the only way I got. But that was really my education. But it's funny what you say about the voice and personality and so on, because we just did this. They released this a documentary on "We Are the World" called "The Greatest
Yes.
Night in Pop," and we did this little function in L.A. A few of us who were involved, and especially Lionel, and Lionel and I were doing this. They were doing this little question and answer thing, and they asked Lionel, "Do you think this could ever happen today?" And one of these things, and Lionel said he didn't think it could. Why? He says because there's not the personalities. He said, and I got to thinking about that. And what's interesting is that when you think about something like "We Are the World," right? You think about Bruce Springsteen and Paul Simon even and myself. I mean, I am not a classically great singer by any stretch of the imagination.
I beg to
And
differ. I love
neither
your
is Bob
voice.
Dylan. And,
Yeah.
and so what we had to do was write our own songs, in those days. There was no American Idol or The Voice or this kind of stuff where everybody kind of sounds the same. And so that you needed to have personality in order to get over. And that's what all those characters have is personality. None of those people are not are conventionally great singers. But so you have to kind of write a song that you can sing better than anybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but I beg to differ. I think your voice and, because we did a concert here in Montana and my husband got to sing a lot of your songs and a lot of the range that you have. And as a singer, you have an incredible instrument. So I say that because maybe you just grew up emulating Ray Charles or emulating whoever you were listening to and just trying it out. And you just happen to have this incredible gift and tone and pitch and all the things. But yes,
No,
going back to what you
I
said,
don't
yeah.
disagree. I don't disagree. You have to have a certain personality, and that just happens. That just happens. That is a gift. It's very very lucky that I don't sound like everybody else. That's
I really do agree with you with We Are the World and Bob Dylan, who I know is one of your idols. I mean, I wonder if, like this day and age, if somebody like him would have made it because his voice is not like what you would hear on The Voice or American Idol. And I do, it makes me sad a little bit because they all kind of sound the same. But
and you know what? That's very interesting because the other thing that's happened, right, since my day, is that the music, the tracks, if you will,
mhm,
are are all perfect now. Everything's pro tooled and perfect. There's no personality in the instruments anymore. There
yeah.
used to be different sounding. Now the bands are all perfect. They're all pro tooled and they're all perfect. So the only thing that has any personality anymore is the voice. And you're quite right. Everybody's emulating the same voices, and even they begin to sound alike. So it's
Yeah.
really a problem. In the old days, bands had band sound, and I suppose they still do. But when you look at the pop charts, most of it is pretty, pretty pro tooled and
It
samey.
is, it's that, yeah, I agree. And being a live performer on Broadway and things like that, like that live performance aspect, it does. It gives you personality, grit. You want to hear that. You want to hear all of the tones and the things that, happen when you're not pro tooled and pitch bended and all the things. But going back to, because I think this is so fascinating, because I wonder if any piece of the puzzle was different in your life, maybe, you wouldn't have been a singer. You would have gone on and done something else. And like, I think the story is that you got your first harmonica from someone that your mom knew. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. It was a guy called Billy Roberts. He was a boarder. My parents split up when I was 11, and she hired she rented out a room to a boarder who was a folk singer called Billy Roberts. He wrote Hey Joe, and
Okay.
he played harmonica with one of these brake apparatuses that hung around your neck. And he had
Yeah.
a zillion harmonicas, most of them which were out of tune. But he gave me all those old harmonicas, and that's how I started.
And
And
he,
actually, my mother gave me a Bob Dylan record because she was hanging out with the poets in pre hippie San Francisco, and she said, "Hey, the poets love this guy. Check him out." And so that was really the beginning for me.
and he just gave you one of his harmonicas?
Billy Roberts did, not Dylan. Billy Roberts gave me a bunch of them. Bob Dylan wrote me a really wonderful note after "We Are the World," though, and that was a nice thing. I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan.
I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan as well. And I know that there's a story that he wrote a song for you that you
Right?
have on cassette tape. Have you found that cassette tape?
No, I lost the cassette.
Oh, I
I'm a
was so
bonehead.
hoping that you would say you found it because
No,
that's
I
amazing.
actually spent one afternoon looking for it. I have zillions of cassettes, and I couldn't find it.
And you couldn't find it. So, how did you start learning the harmonica? Because you're so good at it. Did you, again, was it something just naturally that came when you were busking in Europe?
Yeah, yeah, and there was another kid who was way better than me, and who I learned from in Spain a little bit, and then just on the way, different people and listening, listening to records and stuff, and then, uh, I mean, I started young. I saw in prep school when I was, Tony Glover, and there was Kerner, Ray, and Glover were a folk before, this is, we're talking 63, 64, and Tony Glover was a great harmonica player. He was sort of, and then I discovered Sonny Boy and Little Walter, who were the two, really, well, and Big Walter Horton too. You got to include Big Walter, but those three guys, pretty much invented blues harmonica playing, and you know, we all know their stuff. I mean, all of it's kind of a little interesting strain as harmonica players, and all the harmonica players know all the other harmonica players as well.
Yeah.
It's a small little group,
It's a small, small world. Sorry, I had to say that.
It is. It is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's just something you naturally did. Did you ever try to play any other instrument before that?
No, I mean I play a little guitar, but not, and I can feel my way around a little piano, but almost zero.
But almost zero. That's because
I can't play. I can hear, but I can't. I play by ear, right? So I don't,
do you read music?
no.
Thank God for you, because I don't either. I just do everything by ear. All the
Mm,
harmonies I would learn when I was doing Broadway, all by ear, and I would hear it once and I would get it. And
right.
that's going back to, I wonder if that is the musician gene that you got, because you just seem to fall into singing, fall into playing the harmonica. Not that you didn't work hard at it, but it's just something that was so natural and a natural ability that you did.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I'd take piano lessons. I mean, I really would. I'd love to learn the piano, play the piano. But it's at this point, at this age, first of all, I can't hear anymore, so I can't hear music anymore, which is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when people ask my advice for their kids, I say, don't make them take piano lessons, but allow them to take piano lessons if they want. And I'm not of the mind where you got, unfortunately, most teachers have to have you for a session because they need to make a thing of it.
Yeah.
And so, you don't need to make your kid take piano lessons for 52 weeks, maybe just take like 4 lessons and then see if it registers, if it resonates or not.
Yeah, because they want to, it just like you and the harmonica. If somebody hands you an instrument and you want to play it, you're going to play it. You're going to play it
Right.
every day. You're going to perfect it. You're going to listen to other people and emulate them and all that stuff. Going back to Europe, I think that is such a pivotal moment in your life that your dad suggested that. It was so brilliant. And it was something because I'm a mom of two boys. If my boy went to Europe by himself with no, I mean, this is back in the day when there was really no way to get in contact with your family back in California. Were
True.
your parents scared? Were they, did they just say go and
They did initially, and then of course when they didn't hear from me, they worried, and my old man kind of tried to chase me a little bit, but it was all good. It was all good. I mean, it was that year abroad was pivotal for me because I, I lost my passport. I played harmonica all the way through and played well. I lost my passport in Spain, and on the border of Portugal. It's a long story, but then and I didn't have enough money to get another passport. I need $25 for the passport, and these kids in Spain, these Spanish college kids, arranged to have a concert with me and a guitar player who we found, and we woodshedded ourselves with, and we played this concert um, in Spain and I got they promoted it wonderfully, so that it was like sold out. And I'll never forget we the we we had an opening act because we only had about 38 minutes worth of material, and so they got us an opening act, and the opening act was a band called Los Nuevos Tiempos, the New Times. They were were in Seville, Spain, at Los Nuevos Tiempos, and they come out and they're like a 10, 11 piece band, and they're choreographed, wardrobed, they're dancing. They got like a four-piece horn section, and they're tremendous, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're gonna die here, And then so they finished their set, and the place is sold out, and it was like a music center, a real nice art center kind of thing. So then, and we had a little stage right out in front of the stage with just a circle, and then two chairs and two microphones, one for his guitar and one for my harmonica and vocals. And we go out, we sit down, and as we go out, they introduce us, and the place goes crazy. And then pin drop quiet. And now we have to go play right after the night. And we start playing. But I start playing and singing a little bit, right? Well, and the place is so quiet. I'm thinking, oh my God, we are dying here. We're this is this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And when we finished the song, the place went crazy. And I'd never forget that feeling. I just went, wow, I love that. I want to do this. And that's when a bell went off. And I said, so I went, finished in Europe another few months. I went back to Cornell for 5 minutes over a 2 year period, but basically played in bands. And that was it. The die was cast.
it's true. I mean, that I know that moment in a smaller version of being in front of a live audience and having that pin drop moment, thinking, "Oh my God, everybody hates me," and then the feeling of just that wave of energy, love, really,
Yeah.
and just that's it. That's when you have the bug, if you will. And so that's where I go back to you going to Europe. It's like that planted the seed, and thank God for the rest of us that we got your music, because of that moment. Was there ever a time when you felt like, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out, or somebody said, you might want to get a side job, you might want to try something else, or you should have a backup plan?
I mean, a lot of people said that, but when I tell people when they're asked, what do you do? I'm trying to get a career or whatever. I say, well, first of all, unless it's the only thing you want to do, then go back to school and study Mandarin, or something. But if it is the only thing you want to do, then listen and filter everything through your own personal filter, because eventually you got to believe in it. And nobody really knows anything about this process. The art. If you believe it, you can make it happen. Trust in yourself and just keep dancing. And that's where that is. And interestingly, when you're on the rise, like if you have a band and you're trying to get a record contract, or you're trying to have a hit record, or you're trying to succeed, you're coming from nowhere, that's fun. I mean, and you're totally convinced you're gonna happen, so that doesn't break anybody. What breaks up bands is success, and that's what is a problem in relationships too. So suddenly the keyboard player wants to sing the songs, and or whatever the thing. And so, but when you're struggling, it's the only thing you want to do, it's fantastic. It's super fun.
It's so great. I mean, it really is perspective. And I feel like you, with the news, all those guys who were in separate bands and then you guys got together, was there ever a moment where, I mean, you all sing, you all play, they play multiple instruments. Was there ever a moment where, one of the guys was like, "Hey, I want to be the front. I want to be Huey Lewis."
Well,
Did you ever
actually,
have that?
yeah, actually, I mean that is kind of one of our fortunate things, is that the roles everybody plays in our band suited them, and that's one of the things that enabled us to stay together, is that nobody else really did want to do the interviews, or or sing the songs, and so yeah, I mean, it worked. We were just lucky that way.
Yeah, and was there ever, to reference the Beatles, was there a Pete Best in the news when you guys got together? Was there ever a member that, was fired, or before you guys got the right magic of, your band?
Well, no, not really. I mean, we're the combination of two Marin County bands plus Chris Hayes, the guitar player, and I'd admired the other three guys, Johnny Cole and Mario and Bill Gibson, for years locally, and so my band Clover, we were signed by Phonogram Records in Britain, managed by Jake Riviera and Dave Robinson, who managed Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe and all that. So they shipped us. We had been living in England for 2 years, and so I recruited our keyboard player, and these three guys, and that was the genesis of our band. When Clover broke up, I just said, and we Clover broke up because we were because punk exploded, and we were managed by a British. We were living in London, managed by Jake and Dave, and had all the ingredients of success, except here comes punk, and we were like a kind of a long-haired country rock band, and so that wasn't going to work. And so when punk came, we broke up. But I loved when I loved the stance the punks had. I didn't necessarily like the music all that much, but I loved their attitude. I loved that they were thumbing their nose at the music industry and saying, you know what, we don't care. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to sing our own quirky songs, our own quirky way, and we don't care. And I vowed that if Clover broke up, that's what I would do. I'd go back to Marin County, get my local club on Monday nights, and get my best friends and musicians, and we would just start a jam session. And that's how the news was born.
That's amazing, because that was one of the, like so many things in your career. Because like you said, there is no linear way. There's no rule book on how to become a musician. It kind of just falls, like all these things kind of fell into place perfectly, and meeting, meeting all these guys and having everybody have the right roles, and your band having done your music live.
And
All your guys sing. Everybody sings. I mean, it's incredible, and not just like they kind of sing okay. They sing really well,
yeah, they're
and
all good. They're all good musicians. My band, they're all good
they're
musicians.
incredible musicians. And what is the writing process, and how did you guys start writing music together? Did you just in those jam sessions, did somebody take the lead? Did you bring
Well,
lyrics or music or
we knew we had to write more original songs. That was well, we knew we were a pretty good band, but so we would um, we would have writing sessions where we would all go out to dinner, and then we'd go to the various clubs and go see all the other bands, and we would, and we'd try to harvest ideas, as it were. And um, interestingly, none of us really is a complete songwriter in that sense. I mean, we can all write songs individually, but like I'm not, I mainly write. I mean, I'm just not that good. I don't have enough music in me to write, and some of the other guys don't write. I don't know, but as a band, we've managed, and that was really the hard part for us because you need songs, I mean, so the song is the thing, it really is. And so, but we managed to craft them together collectively. That's really what happens. Usually, some guy, say Chris or Johnny, will have a progression, maybe, some chords, a cluster of chords, and this that, and then we'll add melody once somebody else led, and boom, and words, and boom, and then we'll toss that song back and forth amongst us, and slowly it'll grow into this song.
I mean, I think that also the fact that you guys can write such I say brilliant songs because they still stick in my head, how many decades later, and they're a lot of the soundtrack of our childhood, and there's so many things that just having done the live music, I would be going to sleep with the songs in my head, just going, oh my gosh, it's like an earworm. But it was they're just so wonderful. So the fact that worked out, that you guys write so well together. And then sometimes when you write one hit, or as you have many hits, how do you keep the momentum going? How do you know you're going to still be able to create incredible music together?
Well, I mean, that's the $64,000 question. But
It is.
one thing that's interesting is, um, you know, uh, I abandoned the idea that you have to market yourself all the time. Coming up, there was always a style. In other words, where are you going to be arena rock? Or are you going to hard rock? Or are you going to be R&B or country, or all these parameters? You're supposed to market yourself properly. And our records have been all over the map. I mean, and we produce our own. We've produced our own records since day one, simply because I thought, I don't buy that we have to stick in one genre. I think that if the song speaks to us, if we got it, boom, then and we can pull it off, then it works. And so, we have kind of country music on some of our records. We have
Yeah.
R&B, we have kind of rock, and so and we were warned against all that. We were said, but I always felt like if the song can ring true, if you can sing this song and it feels true to you, then people are going to get it. And fortunately, that's happened with a few of them.
I mean, I think that is a good advice. You've given a lot of advice for people up and coming. What's true to you? What songs do you love? And when you're writing a song, is there a song that maybe didn't become a hit that you thought, oh, this is a hit? Or a song that you thought, this song's okay, and became a smash hit?
Yeah, both of those. I mean, there's a bunch of songs a couple songs that are favorites of mine. The favorites of mine are always sort of on side two for some reason, and then there's other song. I mean, when we had our sports album out, and our first single was Heart and Soul, and the second one was New Drug, and then Hard to Rock and Roll, and then If This Is It, and then Walking on a Thin Line, and at this point we had, I mean, like Walking on a Thin Line, for example, was a hit, and that was a surprise to me. It doesn't sound like a hit record to me. Who's going to dance to Walking on a Thin Line, a song about Vietnam vets, And so,
I mean,
I
yeah.
mean, but yeah, so there are surprises and so on. I mean, the wonderful thing about music and songs is that, and you have to kind of acknowledge the muse, I think, because you have this idea comes from somewhere, and you've read, and some of these songs just take off, and some just don't, and
Yeah.
and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. That's the fun, actually. That's in pop music. I'm not afraid to say that's pop music, and that's the fun.
That's the fun, and that's also it's such a good perspective to say that's the fun because some people might come at songwriting as frustrating or oh, I got to get this right or whatever instead of just letting it come from wherever and it'll either hit, it won't, who knows, but you just kind of are the vessel and are writing the songs. I imagine I haven't written songs that are number one hit singles. So, but what you've done in and what you've, I mean, you and the band and you guys writing together, that legacy is just, yeah, it's going to stick with us forever. It really, you just mentioned all those songs and every single chorus of all those songs just went in my head. So yeah, it's, um, it's incredible. And you also, this is another thing that I think is so cool about the 80s and the generation of MTV. You got to kind of just create this new genre, this new thing, music videos. And you guys, again, just were so humorous and so fun. And you didn't, I remember being a kid and watching this, how I was really introduced to you guys. And my favorite video was Hip to Be Square because you guys your faces were just in the camera. And I just laughed through the whole thing as I'm singing the song. Whose idea was that for, the camera being just up in your face or your heads going back and forth and you were buried in the sand? I mean, who thought of all that stuff?
Well, a long history. That particular video, Hit Me Square, was Kevin Godley and Lol Crumb from 10cc. They started a video company, and that was their idea. There was this new camera that was only minuscule, and you could put it down people's throats and all that stuff.
Okay.
So that was that thing. But but you're quite right that MTV was so important in those days. It's funny how it's happened. And I remember distinctly, we had done a couple videos on our own before we got signed. Just as a band, there was an outfit called Video West in San Francisco, and a gal called Kim Dempster who came to us and said, she came to me and said, "Look, I'll make a video on you guys." And this is the advent of videotape, right? Videotape's relatively new. This is 1977. I
Yeah.
mean, and cable TV, there's only three channels up until, now there's cable TV. And she says, if you let me make a video on you guys, and I'll show it on my program, Video West, which airs at midnight on this cable channel. Let me air it twice, and then you can have the video. I said, great, let's do it. So I had the crazy idea of aping Hullabaloo and Shindig and all those old pop shows, and we
Yeah.
cut Some Lies Are True. We shot it on a sewage pier out in Ocean Beach, right? The idea is juxtapose places because I once saw James Brown on Shindig, and he was set up at the swimming pool at the beach. You know what I mean? And he's in his tux going, and it was so crazy, such a paradox. I thought that was great. So I pinched those ideas for a couple of videos we did, and those videos, one for Don't Ever Tell Me That You Love Me, and one for Some of My Lies Are True, and those videos got us um, uh, our record deal. Really, they love seeing the video. So, but now we make our record, and we have a song called "Do You Believe in Love" that they think is going to be a hit, and they want a big time professional video. So they hired a fashion guy, who did fashion videos like ads and that kind of thing. And he did a super designed video of us from Do You Believe in Love? And it, we're dressed, we're made up with rouge on our cheeks, and the shirts that we're wearing match the pastel background and all, and we shot all day long. I mean, we shot 18 hours, maybe 20 hours, and then we're finally finished the video. And like 3 weeks later, we go back to the record company to see the rough cut, and we all assemble in this room, and there's like nine of us. I mean, six guys in the band, and nine, and then a bunch from the record company and a bunch of the video, because there's probably 30 people. And the director gets up and he says, "Now it's not colorized yet because it's going to really look different. It's going to be much better when it's colorized. But this is the rough cut." Boom. And he turns off the lights and he plays the video, and it was horrible. I mean, my heart sank. There was no direction. The guy, the lead singer, me, is like singing off into space somewhere, and it's just like there was no point to it, and I just went. It was just horrible. I just had such a terrible feeling. And when it ended, they turned the lights back on. Everybody stood up and applauded like it was fantastic. And I thought to myself, well, clearly nobody knows anything about this. They had, this is a brand new medium, and we're writing our own songs. We're producing our own records. We're going to make our own videos. And so that's when we started to do our own videos, and I just took the piss on everything. I just tried to make fun of things and have fun, goof off, and avoid a literal translation of the song. Let the song tell the story, and then just kind of goof off and have fun. And that's what we did, and we had some huge laughs on those videos. I mean,
Oh, big time.
we were cracking up while we were shooting those things. It was really fun.
And I think it shows, and thank God that you did that, and that you really stood your ground, and you were like, this isn't us. This is us. And you did more of what's your personality, because it really just made you even more, beloved by everybody because of the humor. At least by me. I went through and watched all the videos again, and just was laughing and remembering just, oh my gosh, how just brilliant that was. And I know that, like, a lot of people say of your generation who had to take a song that they wrote, and they had an idea for the song, and then translate it into a video, and they almost didn't want to do that because it's like it's a whole separate thing, but you guys just made it fun.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to tell the same story twice, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
song tells the story, so let the song tell the story. And now you just be, what we did is we shot most of our videos outside in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I let the seagulls and the bay chew the scenery. Let that be the production, and we just wandered through the city. We used all four sides of Potrero Hill.
I'm surprised. You know
We
what?
just moved to the other side.
You know what's funny is that being Northern Californian, I'm surprised that you never used the seals. You know what I'm talking about, by Pier
Yeah.
39. If I don't even know if they were there back then, but
Well, they
all
weren't.
those
They weren't.
seals.
They weren't there back then. That
But
that
if
was.
you guys
That
were
was
doing videos nowadays, that's what I would say. Use the seals as some part of the video.
that would be a great one. I got that. The Seals is the background vocals.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah. So you in 1985, you were a huge star, and you mentioned We Are the World. That documentary I've watched a couple times. Um, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. Huge. I mean, everybody that's in that video, really. But is it true that he recommended you when Prince didn't show up? Was it his recommendation, Michael? And maybe Kenny Loggins, I heard?
I think it's Kenny Loggins' idea. But Kenny claims that Michael Jackson had something to do with it. I
I
don't know.
mean,
All
you
I know
were you.
is I got a tap on the shoulder and they said Quincy wants to see you. After I thought we were done, and then I go see it, and he says to Michael, he's Smelly, come over here. And Smelly was Michael because he's so clean. They used to call him Smelly. That was his nickname. And and Michael, he says, sing the song for Huey. Sing the line for Huey. And then he sings, just believe nobody. And he says, Huey, sing it. And I sing it. And he goes, you got it. And then that was it, you know. But apparently, when Prince didn't show up, I think Quincy said, "Oh shoot, Prince didn't show up. What? Ask Kenny Loggins, I think." And Kenny said, "Get Huey Lewis."
That's
So,
amazing. First of all, that I mean, I wonder if Prince ever was regretted that he didn't show up.
oh, I don't know. I mean, Prince,
No one will ever know.
Prince had lots of. I mean,
Lots of
he
things
was
going on.
okay.
But you in that documentary, and I say because you were such a huge star at that time and you were up and coming and I mean, you were it was the heyday, really, and you were so giddy and so excited to be, and so you seemed so nervous. I mean, I would have been completely just obliterated nervous. But you just had this like adorable nature about you that everybody just was endeared. Everyone that I've talked to that has seen this documentary is just so endeared to you with your story around it and how yes, you were just so, you were like all of us would have been. You feel like the way I would have been if I was in the middle of Michael Jackson and everyone else.
My honestly, when I'm singing and doing my thing, my legs are shaking. My legs were shaking. You know how that is when you really know. And my
Oh
legs
man,
were
yes.
shaking, and I'm trying to sing this song.
But you don't hear it in your voice. You just, I mean, the one clip of you singing and then Cyndi Lauper, and it just, you guys are just, you're singing to the rafters, and it's just the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I have noticed about you, and in meeting you in New York, and the We Are the World documentary, any interviews I've seen, you really don't seem to have been affected by all this fame, by being famous, you see some people change from who they were and then who they are now. That is kind of your way. And I'm wondering, when you realized you were famous, it was there ever any moment that you had to check yourself, or did it just not affect you?
Well, I was brought up. It's really my parents on that. I mean, my dad, like he didn't care much. Well, I remember when I mean, I just he was kind of a hard ass, my dad, and I when I told him, I remember one of my songs. I can't remember which song it was, but you get the chart positions for your song the week before, like Thursday, they tell you what it's going to be on Monday or something, and then so we find out that uh, Tuesday our record's going to be number one. It's Thursday, and whatever it is going to go to number one on Billboard charts. So I'm having to talk to my dad on the phone, and he goes, "Hey, pops, guess what?" I said, "What?" "Our record goes number one next week," and he goes, "Oh." I said, "What?" He goes, "Well, I mean, what?" He says, "Well, the best stuff, it's never the most popular."
Oh, you're like, Dad, come on,
So,
just give me.
so I grew up with that. I grew
Yeah.
up with that. I grew up with, I grew up thinking Jimmy Lunsford band was the best band that ever was. Not Benny Goodman,
Yeah.
but Chick Webb and Jimmy Lunsford and these guys. So
But I
that
think
was,
that maybe that kept you humble, or maybe it's just your personality. I just, you always hear stories of people becoming famous and then becoming just, they're not the same. Um, but also in the height of your fame, you were traveling, you were married, you had two kids. I know my husband travels a lot with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. We have two kids. Balancing being an artist and traveling and being a dad, how did you manage that? Or did you feel,
Well, my wife, the mother of my children, had most to do with that, to be honest. I mean, let's be real. She did all the work, But we were both. I mean, we have a very tight. My kids and I, I have two grandkids now, which is fantastic. And
Nice.
but family has always been super important to me and us and that's just it's just and it turns out that it's funny because it just jumped up on my phone today. Crazy stuff jumps on your phone all the time, right? And
Hmm.
this one is about Bob Dylan's kids,
Okay.
right? Bob
Yeah.
Dylan's kids. Who are they? And it goes through all his kids and talks about the kids. And you know what comes through? Bob Dylan is a great father. He's a great father. And the most important thing to Bob Dylan is not all that music or anything, but it's his kids.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. And that just shows you the kind of guy he is. And I feel like that's the same. I mean, family is everything. Family, is all of it. And I mean, when your kids were young, did they know who you were? Did they know did they know dad was Huey Lewis, you know?
I think so. Yeah, they did. They knew that, but yeah,
Do your grandkids know who you are? Like
my
really?
grandkid, well, my daughter was cute. My granddaughter rather, my 7-year-old granddaughter and so we're gonna go to I was gonna teach her. She's gonna take a golf lesson. She wants to play golf, so we go up and we're driving in the golf cart, and everybody knows me. Hey you, and so she says, Papa Lou. She calls me Papa Lou. Papa Lou, how come everybody knows your name? She says. I said, oh, well, Luca, that's because I live here and I'm here a lot and I come up a lot. She goes, no, that isn't it. It's because you're famous.
She's smart. She's smart. I mean, do your kids or your grandkids, any of them want to be singers, musicians? Do they have the
Well,
bug?
no, but unfortunately, because they're both talented. Both my daughter and my son. My son's a pretty good guitar player, and and my daughter has amazing pitch, can sing any song, hear it once, sing it again, but has no interest whatsoever.
Yeah.
Never
I
did.
mean, that's
She's
go
into
figure.
horses.
Okay, I'm gonna do some rapid fire questions because I had some friends of mine that said we got to ask Huey these rapid fire questions.
Okay,
And then we can wrap up for this part one.
good deal.
Um, okay, what is your favorite ice cream?
Coffee.
Coffee. I like that. Favorite sandwich?
Well, I should say coffee Haagen-Dazs. So I'm going to give Haagen-Dazs a plug.
Give Haagen-Dazs a plug. Coffee Haagen-Dazs. Favorite sandwich?
Ooh, I'm going to say chicken salad.
Okay, chicken salad. I love that. Uh, you want a new drug. What was the old drug?
Shoot, well, yeah, that's a good question. What was the old drug? Uh, you know, I, there wasn't one.
No drugs. Is it actually hip to be square?
No, no, it's not. That was actually, I have very few regrets in my career, but one is that I originally wrote that song in the third person. He used
Okay.
to, and I was calling attention to a phenomenon that is also articulated in David Brooks's book, Bohos in Paradise, where people are dropping back in, cutting their hair, dropping back in, that kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
I was trying to lampoon that. And I thought
Well,
it'd
I
be
think you
more
did.
even funnier if I told it on myself because it was my story sort of too. But but people thought it ended up being an anthem for square people, and it was not meant for that at
Not
all.
meant for that, but that's where the song tells the story, right? And
And
once it's out there in the
some
world.
people didn't always get the joke, is the thing, and probably because it was ill told, but some did. And one of my favorites was Luther Vandross, who loved that song, and got it completely, and sent me a real nice note.
I would have loved to hear him sing that song.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Luther Vandross' version of Hip to Be Square would have been a hit.
Luther Vandross's version of anything would be a hit.
Exactly. Thank you. Can you tell me a time where it felt to you like a small world?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, it happens daily, that to me, you run into people who you knew from somewhere else. It seems like the world's all connected anymore. So I'm going to say when I went just down to the cleaners the other day, and turns out that somebody working at the cleaners, their parents used to know my brother in Oregon, So there you go.
Small world.
Yep.
Okay, one more. Would you choose the power of love, or would you choose to go back in time?
Oh, I'd always choose the power of love. I have to choose the power of love.
Good choice. Good choice. Well, thank you for this first half of our interview.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to part one of this incredible conversation with Huey Lewis. And this is just the beginning. You won't want to miss part two of this incredible conversation with this legend. So if you enjoyed listening, please share this episode, subscribe to the podcast, and leave a review. It really helps us grow this community. And remember, bliss is your birthright, everyone, and have vision for what you want, but be grateful for where you are every single day. Thank you so much for listening.